Welcome to the Mounting Block. I'm Oriel.
And I'm Marissa.
We're here talking horses, life, business and motherhood.
And how to hold it all together without completely losing the plot.
Expect honest chats, real stories and plenty of laughs.
Plus a few hot takes and unfiltered opinions. Let's get a leg over and get into it.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Happy birthday, Oriel.
Thank you.
It's Oriel's birthday today.
Do you know, I always used to ask my parents how old they are, they would always say 21 plus.
21 plus. We're going with that.
Plus. Well, I'm happy to say I'm turning 52.
Yeah, fabulous for 52. Everyone, fabulous for 52. You wouldn't believe it.
I won't believe all the stuff that happens in your 50s.
Oh, gosh. No, don't scare me.
You buy a horse.
You buy a horse and then you get really scared.
And then you get really scared, but you keep on going and you fall in love with said horse.
Yes. How could you not?
How could you not? A big golden retriever
Yeah.
that is Lainey.
He is. So we are a day later because we have a special guest that we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
But yesterday, this is why if anyone's watching us on YouTube, we're looking a lot more glamorous than what we normally
do, yes.
We don't have horse slobber on us or
we don't.
hay in our hair.
We don't. I did this morning, though. I had to go and drop something off at one of my son's friends' houses. And I'd given Lainey big birthday hugs when I fed him this morning, and I had green gobber. You guys would have seen that before. I mean, all down my drum.
No.
And she just looked at me and went,
Oh,
the washing's optional?
What do you mean?
Hey, what do you mean? I'm like, this is a sign of love.
Yes.
A symbol of love.
And we all just smell like horses.
Yeah.
It's just a normal thing people around us need to get used to.
Yes,
but not
okay.
today. Not today.
No.
But I did see you ride yesterday.
Yes, you
and
came with
I
me
did
to my
come
lesson.
Because it was the first time you drove the float in your new car.
In my new car. I had to get a tow vehicle, as you might remember.
And it was your maiden voyage.
Yep.
So I had to be there with you.
Yes. And we had the fabulous Will driving behind.
And he called halfway.
He called halfway and said, you might want to stay in your lane. I'm like, what are you talking about? I am in my lane. He said, well, sometimes the float wheel's kind of on the line, maybe even over it.
You're sort of drifting to the
started
centre.
drifting a little bit. I was like, oh, this is a new car and it's a very big one.
Yes, it's just going to take a little bit of time, but you did amazingly well.
Yeah.
And then it was so funny because we got to your lesson and the coach was over in the jump arena. And if you picked up from last week's episode, Oriel has conquered through her initial fear of doing some jumping.
Yes.
And now the coach is clearly like, here we go.
Here we go.
And the funniest part was when you had your dressage whip in your hand because he'd been a bit lazy in the arena and you weren't going to use it because we're not really whip people.
No.
But you were going to hold it.
I was going to hold
it.
Just so he could see it.
Just so he could see it. And then you saw you're in the jump arena and you just quickly went, Marissa.
Wait, Marissa, take the whip.
Take the whip away.
Quickly, don't let Leslie see it. Quick.
Don't let her see it.
I don't want him to go any faster if we're in that arena.
No. But she just gave you no time to consider what you were doing and you
she just went, right, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Walk over this, trot over this, go.
And it was so good.
And then when she stopped and she actually said about halfway through, she said, I want you to know why I started so hard. Like she wasn't taking any prisoners. She was like, we are doing this now. She said, I started hard because I know you now. And I know you'll get in your own head and you'll talk yourself out of it and you'll get all scared, but you just had to do it. And I said, I did. I heard your voice. I was like, shit, I just got to do this. And it was fine.
It was amazing. You did so well. You did lots of pole work, little jumps. And actually what was the best part is right at the end, you said, oh, no, but when I did that, I should have done this or I did this. And she just went, stop. Yeah. You completed an amazing round. You did everything that you were asked to do. He did amazingly well. And it was such a good lesson to not focus on the negatives.
Yeah.
And just appreciate, she said, you didn't come off your horse. He didn't fall down. He got over everything. Everything was really calm. Take the positive, hey?
Yeah. And we did do that in my dressage saddle. So for those of you who don't know, there's a slightly different saddle when you do dressage and jumping because you're sitting in a different way. And so I knew I wasn't going to actually be doing any big jumps because I was in the wrong saddle anyway. I did get a text from her this morning saying, please bring your jump saddle to our next lesson. Ooh, why did I tell her I just bought one?
Oh my gosh, no, but it'll be great. You're just going to go from strength to strength, and she's just building it up for you bit by bit. So well done.
Now that's enough about me, because I've got a little white chubby girl
oh my gosh, yes,
to talk about.
Hopefully. So tomorrow or on the weekend, essentially I'm driving a good distance to go see a horse that I am absolutely hoping is my unicorn.
It's the one.
So we will report back. I've got an overnight in a country motel, which will be fun, a pub counter meal, which I'm looking forward to. And hopefully we've had lots of videos. She's been vetted, so hopefully this is the one.
So will you see her twice? Will you
I'm
see her
hoping
Saturday
so.
and the Sunday?
Yeah. I've packed double jods.
Double jods?
Just so I can have a second little go. So that's the plan. So we'll report back. Here's hoping, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. You guys know the journey.
Yes.
That we've been through.
Yes.
Yeah. So send us all more horsey vibes. We need more horsey vibes coming through.
Yes. Marissa needs a pony.
Marissa needs her pony. I need Marissa to have a pony.
Yes, I know. It's so sad. It's been so sad. But anyway, all roads may have led to here.
I tell you what, for those of you who do listen to our podcasts, every week or every couple of weeks, you would know this is what resilience looks like. It really, really is. This is it. It's the pushing through, keeping on going, keeping on.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
You've done amazingly
Thank you. There's been a lot of ups and downs, and lots of weird horse people that we've spoken about, and lots of weird experiences. Lots of trawling the internet, but I think the bottom line is, if you love something and you want it bad enough, you chase it down, right?
100%. 100%. So the funniest one's been the half nude.
Oh my gosh,
dude.
I know.
Dude forgot his horse's name.
Yeah. Oh my Lord. Didn't go and see that one.
No.
So yes, fingers crossed. Now I'm going to introduce our guest who's going to be joining us in studio very shortly.
Yeah. Yes.
And her name is Robin Bailey. So she is she's been, part of our media in Brisbane in Australia for a couple of decades. And she has also released a memoir, a book, called Flamingos Aren't Born Pink.
What a great name.
What a great title, right?
Awesome.
And I've read it, and it is a journey. And she's so honest and raw in this book. And I'll let her talk more about it but I mean, I was crying, I was laughing. It was, And because she's such a familiar voice, because she's been on Brisbane Breakfast Radio for so long, I could hear her voice telling the story, and she's an amazing storyteller. So, but gosh, she's been through a lot.
Yeah.
And I really want to know about, so much about how she's managed to push through a very male-dominated industry.
Very male-dominated.
And, through the 90s and through the 2000s, and when it wasn't, we're getting better. Still now. She's raised children in amongst all of this. So how did she manage the mother guilt and all those things that come with it? And she's had some significant losses in her life. So really excited to bring Robin in.
Very excited.
Yeah.
So let's do that.
Let's do that now. This episode contains discussion of suicide and mental health struggles, which may be distressing for some listeners. Please listen with care and prioritise your well-being. If this conversation brings up difficult feelings or you need support, please contact Lifeline on 131114. Crisis support is available 24/7. All right, we have now welcomed the lovely, beautiful Robin Bailey.
Hi. Very excited to have you with us.
Oh, thank you.
So excited. And we did, in the intro, just promo your book, which has recently come out. So, wow.
I love the title.
Yes.
How did you come up with the title?
So I did a science show for Channel 9 called Hot Science, which was a national show out of Adelaide. And I learnt, and we would do all things, the idea was trying to take science to kids in the most kind of easiest way to learn. So I was on with a puppet called Ooze and a chick called Sue, and Ooze was in a fishbowl, it was like an alien kind of creature. And one of the random facts that I learnt was that flamingos aren't born pink. They become pink with the food that they eat. And it now turns out that there's this whole movement around flamingos and women and older women and being able to maintain your pink, which was not something that I realised or knew about. But I think it kind of is a great sort of metaphor for what the book is, which is you start one way and you end up another, and hopefully it's in all its fabulousness.
Yeah.
What's the movement? I've never heard of this.
It's called, my sister showed it to me, I think it's called the Flamingo Movement. But anyway, I'll source some stuff and I'll send it to you and you can have a look.
Fascinating. Maybe there's someone who we can talk to about the Flamingo movement.
All falls never differ, whichever one you want to go with.
Yes. But I think we were just talking about in the intro about resilience because, it's a very different resilience that I'm having at the moment to what you have had in the book. Mine is about keeping resilient in finding a horse. Because I've been through quite a journey with people.
It's a journey.
It's been a journey. But the book has so much resilience in it. And I think what I took away from it, and there's so many questions that I have for you, but one of them is being a mother and a person that's so public and so, sharing so much of your life. How did you do that? How did you get through raising 3 boys and having all of this go on?
It's interesting, actually. There were a couple of really pivotal moments after my husband, Tony, suicided. And so the boys were little. They were 9, 12 and 14. And on the day it happened, I had to ring his counsellor. And he'd had there was some mental health stuff going on for a little bit. And so he was in heavy sort of counselling. And I had to ring his counsellor and say, he's died. Sorry, my kids are coming home. I need to tell them what's happened. Tell me what to say.
Yeah.
And he gave me the best piece of parenting advice ever, which is be age appropriate, but be honest. So I think from that moment on, every single parenting move that I made, and there's a lot of them in the book because, my kids had very different experiences through their adolescence because of what had happened. It just became the mantra of getting out there and being honest. So then when 5 weeks after Tony had died, I was still at home and Lewin, my middle son, who was the 12-year-old, came to me and said, you've got to go back to work. And I said, why? And he said, because you're using too many words on us. But he was serious. It was like, and I think, we always say we're the sum total of our life experiences. And my father died when I was 11. So, and again, one thing you will learn about from my book is that I am very, very clear about it takes a village. And because I'm chronically dyslexic, my whole life has required me to get support in certain areas of my life. And so when, I went through this stuff with their dad, I immediately then just pulled more people into my village because I needed the capacity to be able to manage what was going on.
Yeah.
And so I went to a counsellor within the first couple of weeks because, again, one of my sons was very angry. And I said, how do I do this? And he said a couple of really interesting things. He said, the same-sex parent suiciding, your one job is to keep those children alive because there's 10 times more likelihood that they will suicide.
Oh, my God.
Right? Who knew that?
Yeah.
Because it's put on the table that in a way other children, it wouldn't be.
No, it's an option.
It becomes an option.
Yeah.
And so he was like, and then the second thing he said that was super valuable after I'd picked myself up off the floor and just went, okay, how am I going to do this? He said, nothing that and he'd written heaps of books and stuff, nothing that I have written in a book or can tell you from all of my training is as relevant as what you knew how it felt as an 11-year-old with a parent dying.
You've been through early grief.
Also, but you've been through it as a child.
As a child, yeah.
Not as an adult.
Yeah.
And so he said, what you felt, tap into that because that's what they're going to feel. And so the boys were 9, 12 and 14. The eldest was starting to go through adolescence, but they were essentially children. So I think I just knew that when I was 11, my mum dealt with the death of my father a little bit differently, but, I didn't want to be the center of attention. I didn't want anyone to treat me differently. I just wanted to get back out there. And I think for 3 boys, that's even more so. And so I think it was about getting back into the normal, and the boys needed me to be at work. I was the breadwinner. It was problematic because Tony ran his own business but was a stay-at-home dad, so
Yeah.
he was their primary carer. And that created a whole of other problems.
Yeah.
But it was get back to being normal and get back to mum being on the radio and get back to it being kind of some sort of resemblance of what life was like before, except with this massive gaping hole and wound that we were then spent years to try and repair.
So, you know, I have not had anyone close to me commit suicide, but from all the reading and all of those sorts of things that I've done, it's very much about, for the people that are left behind, it's like, was it my fault? And I imagine as a child, I mean, I'm sure you probably went through that too, but as a child, it would be even more, what did I do? Like, how is...
It's funny you say that because the celebrant who was doing Tony's funeral, so he died on a Monday and we cremated him on the Friday, and he came over and he had one meeting with the kids because the kids were each going to do something at the funeral. And Lewin, my middle son, who is very wise, very emotionally intelligent, he goes, why didn't Dad leave a note? And the celebrant said if he left a note, mate, he wouldn't have done it. Now, all three of those kids, true, and I think there is some truth in that. Like, and that's not to say that people who, you know, have children who have suicided have left a note. I get that, but I just think in this moment, in our circumstance, and I think that in some ways that helped the boys a bit because you're right. It's immediately, you know, and if I do cry, it's only ever about my children. But, you know, they said, why weren't we good enough?
Oh, babies.
I think it made me cry.
But you know
We
what
cry
I mean?
all the time on this. We cry all the time.
Because it's, you know, and I think there is still, I think, you know, my men, they're extraordinary young men now, 21, 24 and 26. And I think most of the time that doesn't occur to them. But it, you know,
if they scratch that wound, it's there.
Yeah.
It's not a question you can ever answer either because he's gone. Right?
Yeah.
He's gone.
Yeah.
And
the
I'm
finality of it.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of interesting and I get myself in trouble a little bit because I have huge empathy for people with mental health problems. Do not get me wrong. I lived with that for a while and I understand, and my father also had a depression, and so I can see it from an outsider's perspective. I haven't lived it. But from a family member, I just think it's the most incredibly selfish thing that you can do. And as I transition, you know, maybe out of my radio career into whatever else looks like for me in time or in parallel, it'll be about how do you make people understand the consequences of that decision?
Yeah.
Because it is a lifetime for my children.
It is. Yeah.
You know,
when you talk about age appropriate, you know, be honest, but be age appropriate. Did you tell all of them on that day?
Yes.
What had happened, like that he'd done it himself?
Yes.
Like,
so this is what happened. Yes.
Yeah.
And that was where it got to, because I was getting an immense amount of pressure from his father to say that he'd had a heart attack. And you know, there was lots of, you know, he did it at home. There was a lot of stuff going on the day. His body was still in the garage. He gassed himself in his Mustang. And we had to wait for the coroner and the police, you know, like there was a lot going on, and the kids had to be sent away so that they didn't come home to that, but also they had to be isolated because word was traveling really quickly because of my profile that something tragic has happened, and I didn't want anyone else to tell them.
No.
So there was this massive amount of pressure, which was why actually I rang the counsellor and I said, tell me what to do.
What amazing move to do that though. Like quick thinking, like I just need to lean on somebody and give me that in that time of panic.
Yeah, I mean, I think my gut was saying you can't say he's had a heart attack.
No,
but you know,
it would come out eventually anyway.
Of course,
I mean, and then you're the liar,
right?
Yeah,
and
but
then
you
how
don't
are they
think
gonna
like
trust
that
you?
necessarily.
Yeah,
you're going, and
what's
this
right.
is the thing with parenting. It's like you go, I have to protect my children, and one of the big things that I deal with a lot whenever I do corporate stuff is going, you know, people say, how do you raise resilient children? And I start with be age appropriate but be honest, and I mean that about everything. because
everything.
you know my book ends with each of my children writing their own chapters as now young men reflecting back on what happened through their adolescence.
Which, can I say, was the best ending to the book.
Oh,
It was
they're amazing.
It was amazing because you were speaking about them the whole time, and then they have this voice at the end, and you're like, it was like a warm hug from them or something, that they're okay and they're great and
Yes.
they love you, and they've got this like, I really.
But don't
love
you
that.
also see that they knew so much more?
Oh God, yeah.
So kids know. Like, this is the thing I say to people, you know, when families are going through divorces and, you know, we're hiding it from the children. I'm like, you're kidding yourself. And what you're actually doing, essentially, potentially, and again, I do not ever tell another parent how to behave, but I say, this is my experience and this is what I learned from it. So if this helps you, go for it. But if you think for a second that they aren't aware, then what you're doing is a disconnect where they don't trust you or they don't have the words to ask you. And if they are asking you and you're not being honest, then what does that say to your child?
Yeah. And another little chip in the relationship occurs. Right. Yeah. I completely agree with that.
Did you have any idea that this could happen? You said he was having some mental health problems before.
Yeah, he'd tried once previously where he'd taken a drug overdose. But then when it kind of in hindsight, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So he was in a park in Ansted, which is not too far. We lived in Kenmore in Brisbane, so it was maybe 3 suburbs away. And he fell asleep in a park and then woke up and had taken some medication and then was like, I accidentally, and I'm thinking, no, you didn't.
No, that's not
accidental. And then there was another time where he had threatened to, you know, drive the car off the road, the Mustang, which was his pride and joy. But we were separating. And you know, you have to read the book, but there was a lot of things that were going on around that time that who was very angry about. So, you know, I mean, if you were asked, and I start the book by saying this, if you were to ask him what the number one reason for his suicide would be, he would say me. There's no question. I mean, I can't prove that, but I genuinely feel that just by the kind of behaviour and what happened, what was going on before.
That's hell to live with, isn't it?
No, because I don't blame myself. Yeah. I don't.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I love that. I can't. That you've got the strength to do that and the strength to know that.
Yeah. But you can't. And you know, his family blame me, no question. But his parents or his father did, absolutely. But I can't. I just can't take responsibility for someone else's choice.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Now, I absolutely, it was one of those reasons.
Yeah.
But you know, and to plan a suicide and to go through with it, I never quite find the right words because I want to say it actually takes really big kahunas.
Yeah. Yes,
it really does.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's research about people that have done the jump before and they've
survived and regretted it.
Felt the moment their body left the bridge, they've had deep regret. Yeah. You know, like so you're right. I think it does take big kahunas to do it, but it's a choice. It's an actual choice that you are choosing in that moment.
Yeah.
And you know, like, let's be very clear for anyone listening who is living with someone with depression or, you know, mental health issues, or have them themselves. I have no doubt that in his mind in that moment, he thought it was better off for everyone else.
For sure.
No question, right?
Absolutely.
But and this is the thing, you know, when you read, and particularly parenting boys, and I've learned a lot about this because I come from 4 generations of only women. So, of course, I am a single mother of 3 sons.
Yeah.
You know, like the learning curve was steep. Yeah. But with boys particularly is there will be another moment.
Yeah.
So this moment is terrible, but there'll be another moment and it'll be better. And this moment is glorious and there'll be another moment and it'll be terrible. Yeah. But there'll be another moment.
Yeah.
You just got to live through each moment and you know, what do you have to do? And anyone that's been through really terrible grief and trauma, you know, you have to get through the moments. And I guess in my world, without the mental health behind me, I don't contemplate suicide, but I have lain on the carpet for hours until something in me went, no one's coming.
You pick yourself up. Let's go.
Get up and put one foot in front
now,
of
I guess for him that
that
wasn't
it. that
Yeah.
didn't kick in.
And, you know, I think you're right. I think unless anybody has actually experienced that deep level of despair and depression and had, you know, that take over their mind, we can't ever understand. But it is an illness, and it is something that, you know, there's a belief that the world is better off without them at some point for them to make that decision to do that.
And there's some vindictiveness. Like I genuinely don't think he meant to die. I think he meant to go, look what she's doing to me. This is how terrible it is. And it didn't work out like that, you know. And
then the impact goes on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lives on. The impact lives on. So they had their life semi in the public eye. And I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember, because you have been in my ears from B105 days. Well, no, it was great, because I was actually saying to Oriel earlier when I was reading your book, and I think I texted you and said, I can just hear you telling the story in my head. Like, I could hear your voice, because you're a beautiful storyteller. You always have been. But one of the things I remember is you had nicknames for your boys.
I did. Ronaldo, Beckham, Casanova, and Big Boy.
There you go. And so
was that for privacy?
It was in the beginning, and this was way before. This was when they were born. So Ronaldo Beckham, my eldest, who's Finn, was a massive soccer player and loves soccer and still plays at 26. Casanova was my middle son because he's just such a quirky, amazing, they're all extraordinary in their own way, but they're so different, right? He's feisty too. Yeah. And then there's my youngest, who is the baby and, you know, used to always want to be big boy.
No.
And, you know, and the thing I think is the most that I'm kind of most proud about with the book. So it's very important people understand that they did not read my manuscript before they wrote their chapters. No, they didn't. So what happened was I did it. And I got a ghostwriter to read my manuscript, and then he worked with each of the children asking very specific questions to craft their chapters, which they then went backwards and forwards with and created. Sam, who is the ghostwriter, was extraordinary. He got their voices so spot on, but it meant that the boys were brutally honest.
Yes.
And that's what I said to them. Yeah. Don't do this unless, and there are some swipes at me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, and there's some pretty, like each one of them, there was a moment where I felt absolutely kicked in the guts. But good.
Yeah.
What a gift as a mother to actually know what your children think about you.
Absolutely. Yeah. We may not like it all the time, but, you know.
And also there were things in there that I had agonised over for decades. Didn't Rada mention. All the things that they loved that I didn't realise I'd done right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we can beat ourselves up so much as parents, as mothers particularly, right? That mother guilt.
Yeah.
But did they have an issue? Did they have any problems? How was that balancing the public? Because you have always been so honest and so forthcoming with your private life. And that's what's made you so unique in your career.
Well, it is.
How did it go?
It's the universal theme throughout their chapters. They did have a problem with it.
Yeah.
And probably more than I gave credit. They also knew the rationale behind it. But also, I don't know that I'll ever be able to reconcile that. I think there is a wound for each of them in a different way. It's interesting, none of them want to go into the media. And I think, but that isn't just me. I think they have seen, as much as they sat in the stadium watching Chelsea play Barcelona and had these extraordinary experiences, or run out with the A-League, because my kids love soccer. Yeah. They balanced it with, and even now, you know, anything that goes into our local paper, I have, you know, I polarize people, particularly older men who hate me and say really awful things. And I don't read it. I don't care, but the boys do. And that's, so they see it all, right? And none of them want a bar of it.
I mean, fair enough.
Did you choose, like when you sat down, did you say, this is the person, like this is me, this is real, and I'm going to let everybody know? Like when you became a household name and people started talking about you and all of those sort of things and wanted to know who your husband was or who your children were, did you sit there and really think about, am I going to be honest and be transparent and vulnerable and all of those things? Or am I going to try and be private? And what was it that made the decision to go out there?
It's an interesting question, because I think I am was of a time in the media, which is now almost seems a bit inconceivable to think about. And anyone who's over 40 and reads my book who grew up listening to me will, and there is a big shift in media now. And I think when I got to Brisbane, and I'd done 8 cities in 8 years, kind of working my way up the ladder, and when I got here and decided to stay, because I'm originally from Sydney, and have my children here, I was hell-bent on wanting to do emotional content. Now, that seems kind of crazy because you go, what are you talking about? Because now with social media, but there was none of it.
No. Yeah.
And radio, like there were these kind of genres. So the 90s were all about the comedian.
Yeah.
And so it was, you know, an anchor, a comedian and a chick.
Yeah.
And it was always a trio. And you know, when I started in radio, I was the laugh track.
Yeah.
And my girlfriends used to find it hilarious to go, oh, you genuinely laughed today.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, you did your radio fake laugh.
Yeah.
Which hopefully most people didn't get. But, you know, like.
I don't think I ever got that.
Right. So I just was like, I want to talk about deeply emotional things. And so I was able through a lot of pushing and it was of a time. And I think that's where I actually kind of went, well, if you're going to go there, you have to lead the way.
Yeah.
Like you can't expect people to tell you their deepest, darkest secrets
If you don't.
if you're not willing to share some of yours. Now, let's be clear, breakfast radio is fun.
Yeah.
You don't want to sit there, right?
Yeah.
But we would have moments, and I think, again, now radio has moved way past that because there's too much.
Yeah.
Like now, actually, post-COVID, everyone wants the fun. Like, let's not. And I think COVID brought us all to a level playing field where everyone had gone through crap.
Yep.
And everyone had felt deeply emotional.
Yeah.
And no one wanted to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so
let's all just like breathe and just be a bit lighter, and the world is okay, and we're going to be okay. Yeah.
And we're listening to more radio, right? Because we're at home.
Yeah.
We're not talking to people.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I think I think that's why we've survived, to be honest. I think television, magazines, newspapers have gone by the wayside because of the immediacy of radio.
Yeah.
That you can dial a phone number and be on air.
Yeah.
And there is something about that connection that makes it more real.
Yeah.
And the local side as well, I think, you know, whenever I mean, from my perspective, I think when you're driving around and you're listening to, you know, Sydney-based announcers, I'm like, no, they're just not our people. Whereas when you're sitting there in the car and you've got your Brisbane people and they're talking about things that are happening like around you, I just think, oh yeah, that's the way it should be. Like
when I was younger,
people.
I never used to like that. I used to feel sort of almost suffocated by it.
Interesting.
But as you get older, now I'm like, this is my place. I never thought I'd come back to Brisbane.
Yeah,
isn't that interesting?
And I just love it.
Yeah.
Remember you said, would you go back to Sydney or Singapore? Like, no, actually, no. I just want to be here.
Yeah.
With these people, you know, like this is just a fabulous life. My girlfriend came up to stay from Melbourne the other day. We went to my son's soccer game. It was 9 o'clock in the morning. Sun was shining, middle of winter. We were wearing jumpers, but that was it. And she's like, oh, my God, I have to move here.
She's out in Melbourne freezing. Sorry, Melbourne people.
Traffic,
Traffic.
But I think you know, like I spent the first 18 years of my life in Sydney, and I go back. My mum's 91 now, so I'm back in Sydney at least once a month. And there's something about Brisbane and our connection, and I think with the Olympics coming, I think there's this, we've always been a bit more connected. The sun makes that happen.
Yeah.
Like
Sun,
we're nicer to each other because we're happier.
And warm.
And warm and you know, but also then I think with the Olympics we've now got some credibility.
Yes,
You
we're now
mean-
a proper city
Yeah,
now.
we're not a country town anymore, as people like to say.
We have nice restaurants here, believe
Yes.
it or not.
Although I think I listened to I was at a conference and I listened to the Lord Mayor speak about the Brisbane Olympics coming up, and he was saying the biggest shift that the city has to have is that it needs to move into nighttime. We need to get later because we're going to have all these international people coming over. We can't shut our restaurants at 8:30 p.m.
No,
we need a
on
night
a Monday.
we need
The
a
last
night
person to leave Brisbane, please turn out the lights at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
But still, like, if my kids have a birthday on a Monday, Where do you go? To a pub.
To the pub. The local tavern is your only option.
No, but not even. Like, I live in Paddington, quite close to Suncorp Stadium, and like Last Man Standing, Darling and Co., they don't open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Hospitality.
It's just the paddo, mate.
The paddo, the local tavern.
I mean, the English would just go, you what?
I know.
Paddo was around when we were younger, right?
Yeah.
Paddo's been there for a very long time.
But could you imagine your local pub just being not open on a Monday for a pint? No.
No, it doesn't exist.
So we're just getting back to what we were talking about before, Robin. So you went through this very, very difficult experience and you were single parenting then on the back of it, working full time. For those mums out there, and we have talked about this sort of thing before on the podcast, it's bloody hard. Like to do that. It's such a juggle. And you've got 3 kids, right? So you're talking about sport. They're wanting to go here, there, and everywhere. You're on radio, high-pressure job. It's live, right? You have to be there at a certain time. You don't have flexibility in your working hours. How hard was that part of your life? How did you do it?
I called in a tribe. Like we used to have students come and stay with us just to earn a bit of extra income when Tony was alive. And then he wanted to start his business, so we started to get au pairs. Yeah. So the system was available to me. I knew how it worked. And I did that for a number of years after he died. But the au pair system, generally with Europeans, it may have changed a bit now, but they come for 9 months because they get a 12-month visa and then they want 3 months to travel. Yeah. So then there was this dodgy kind of 3 months where you're trying to kind of cobble things together until the next lot come. But the problem was that they were young, and that was fine when the boys were younger, but as they got older, it just wasn't fine. Yeah. And so I found it was actually thanks to Jessica Rudd, Kevin Rudd's daughter, who his housekeeper and then her housekeeper was this amazing woman called Zelma. And Zelma, Jess's kids were getting older, and Zelma wanted to work with some older kids. Like she just didn't want, but Jess's kids were sort of still in primary school, whereas mine were now into high school. And Zelma just became this most extraordinary, and still is. Like I saw her yesterday. She lives up in Gympie, but she comes down often. She's in her 70s now, but she became this amazing. She was the bad cop, so I didn't always have to be. When she came to me, and I had a granny flat, we lived in Fig Tree Pocket, so I should backtrack. When I left the house that we lived in where Tony had died, I purposely looked for a place where I could have a separate accommodation for someone. And so Zelma came into our lives, and I remember her sitting down with me, and I just said, mate, the only way this is going to work is that if I give you power while I'm not there. That you and I are working all the time together. And I've seen it so many times where parents are like, you can't talk to my child like this. That could never have existed. She had to be the other side to me. And don't get me wrong, there were times where we would come to blows because I didn't agree, but there was such utter love and respect. My boys, to this day, do not come to the table with a mobile phone without a shirt on or with a hat on.
Yes.
And love this. We've talked about this before. I'm so into that kind of stuff.
And Selma was very old school and a disciplinarian. She never hit them. That was a rule. I said, I don't hit my kids. And so she didn't. I mean, she probably did with her own kids. So there was kind of, we'd have guidelines. But, Zell has been down in Brisbane for the last 2 weeks, and twice my boys, and she loves this, they said to her, can you come over and do roast pork for us? Because that's what she used to do on a Sunday. So they all turned up with their girlfriends, but that's how I did it.
She was your lifeline.
She
came into your life at the right time.
And also I kind of went, and I'd say this to any single parent and particularly a single mum, you have to forgive yourself for what you can't do. You can have it all, just not all of the time.
Yeah, and I love that.
Yeah.
You just can't.
You can't.
So and like for me, I never did the morning routine, not ever, so.
How bloody delightful.
But, I didn't have my kids. I know,
but you miss it. Like,
I guess if you don't have it.
Waking up every morning, right?
And when they were sick, and and I was
but she
on
got it on the weekends. That's better. You don't want to have the like fights to get the shoes and the thing and the eat your breakfast. Why aren't you eating? Put one more spoon in your mouth. Just come on.
Hello, my morning this morning. I kept on saying to them, "It's my birthday. Be good. Do what I say, please."
And they're like, what?
Give me something. Because Oriel's husband's FIFO, so she's 1 week on, 1 week off.
So I'm sort of single parenting at times. So here's when my oldest just came and gave me a big hug and went, "I'm sorry, Mummy. I want your birthday to be good." I went, "Great. Put on your shoes."
No. Birthday fairy, please let them do what they're told.
Yeah. But I worked it. It's my birthday.
So that's all for part 1 of our chat with Robin Bailey.
And trust us, we're only just getting started.
In part 2, we go even deeper with Robin, covering more of the real, raw and honest moments from her journey.
You won't want to miss this one. We'll see you for the next episode of part 2 of The Mounting Block.